We are in the PromptBank class that utilizes a random generator and declares a variable randgen uh, that we'll utilize later. We are also declaring two arrays. One is called questions, the other one is called statement, after which we are declaring and defining a constructor that initializes these both arrays length to 10 and allocates memory to them. Then we have two methods that populate each element of the question array and the statement array here. After which we are using a method called getRandomStatementTrunc that returns statement array element of a randomly generated integer number between 0 and 9. We also have a method that returns a questions array element with a randomly generated integer number between 0 and 1. Entering the project ELIZA, where we are utilizing a scanner class that will gonna initialize a keyboard scanner object for the user's input, and we are only declaring a string array called words array, and at this point we don't want to initialize its length. This class is containing 11 different methods that I constructed to help me execute the project successfully. It is also a host of the main glue method. Out of those 11 methods, the first one is called word count, that is accepting a string and is returning an integer. What this does, this method counts the word that the user inputted into a string sentence. For that cause, we have initialized and declared an integer variable I to 0 and an integer variable count to 0 that will be later returned. We have a while loop that is going to loop as long as I is less than the length of the string sentence. Inside the body of this while loop, we have another while loop that checks if we are encountering a white space. Normally, when we type a sentence, we separate the words with a single white space, but the user has the prerogative to use as many white spaces as he or she wants. The user also has the prerogative to start the sentence with as many white spaces as he or she wants. And we need to make sure that we can accommodate that. What we want to check is if we are nearing the end of the string sentence that the user input. And if we're not, I will get incremented. And if we are, then we need to return count. After this line of code, we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that we are entering a word, which is why we need to also increment the count. While we are in a word, that's what this while loop is for. We need to check again if we are nearing the end of the string sentence, in which case we need to return count. And if we're not nearing the end of the sentence, I needs to get incremented. And just as a safety net, the method needs to return the variable count. The next method is called string to array. Is kind of self-explanatory, that accepts a string sentence and it will return a reference to an array. What this method does is takes in the string sentence inputted by the user and converts it into an array of elements, and in which each element is going to represent the word inputted by the user in the sentence. For this, we need to finally initialize the words array to a length of the number of words. This is where we are utilizing the method that I constructed a little bit above here. After which, when we are initializing the words array with the length of the count of words, all of those elements will be nulls, which is why we need to, in the next step, initialize each element of the words array to an empty string. Then we declare an integer variable j to 0, after which we are entering a for loop that will loop as long as I is less than the length of the words array. Similarly, like above, we check if we are encountering a white space. If we are, then we need to check if we're near the end of the string statement. And if we're not, J will get incremented. And if we are, we need to return the reference of words array. Similarly, we need to check if we are inside a word, in which case the words array will get the value of itself with concatenation of the character at index j. Similarly, we need to check if we're near the end of the sentence, and if we are, we need to return the reference of the words array, and if we are not, we will just increment the j variable, and just as a safety net, we are returning the reference of words array. Next, what we have a simple input method that is going to return the user's input until the user presses enter. That's why we have keyboard.nextLine instead of keyboard.next. Next, we have a method that will return the first word that the user inputted. And then we also have a method that will return the last word the user inputted, which is the element of words array of the words array length -1. We also need a method that will return the last word, but it'll return the last word without the punctuation mark. We do this by checking if the last word from words array, if the last element of words array ends with a question mark or any other punctuation mark there is. So if it does end on a punctuation mark, we do replace that punctuation mark with a white space, and after which we are trimming that white space. We do the same thing in case we encounter any punctuation mark. I could have done this easily with a switch statement, and but I cannot deny the power of copy paste. We need a method that is almost identical. We need a method that is returning the trimmed version of the last word. So it returns the last word but without the punctuation mark. We do the same. We check if the first word ends with a question mark or any other punctuation mark, after which we replace that punctuation mark with a white space, and after that we are trimming that white space, and at the end we are returning that element without the punctuation mark. We also have another method that checks if the last word that the user entered is ending on an exclamation mark. If it is ending on an exclamation mark, then the method will return true, and if it's not, the method will return false. We also need another method that checks if the user entered a question, which checks if the last character that the user entered is a question. If it is, the method will return true. If it is not, the method will return false. We also have another method that checks if the user entered a ordinary statement that does not end on a question mark and that does not end on an exclamation mark. If it satisfies those two conditions, this method will return true, or if it doesn't, this method will return false, after which we finally entered the main method, and the first thing we want to do is declare and initialize a PromptBank object that I called simply Q. What is important not to forget is to populate both array fields in this object Q. This part of the code is from the earlier stages of development where I needed to test my methods, and after I was done and satisfied how they work, I encased them in comments and moved on. Afterwards, I am declaring 3 different string variables. One is for output, one is for input, and one is for the username. This code can easily work with just one of these, but just to improve my own Readability, I'm using 3. I'm also using a Boolean variable I called again, initialized to truth, which will help me execute the code again or not. The whole main body method, the whole instructions and commands are encased in a while loop that is going to loop or terminate depending on the user's input at the end of this code. First, what we do is we greet our user and we ask for their name, which name will be stored in the username via the method input string. Then we want to say hello to the username and ask about what the issue is. Then we have another while loop that is going to iterate as long as the user's input terminates it. Anyway, the user's input will be stored in a variable called input. Then what we need to do is convert the user's input from a string sentence into an array of elements that store the words of the statement. What we do is we check if the last word is ending as a statement, and also we want to check if the user did not enter exit. This is absolutely needed so that the program doesn't confuse the decision of the user to exit the program with the string statement input of the user. In this case, the variable output will be storing a randomly selected statement where we replace the word blank 1 with the trim version of the last word inputted by the user. We do the same thing. The output string variable is going to store itself, but where we in this case we replace the word blank 2 with the trimmed version of the last word, and after that we are printing that statement out on the string. We do the same thing. We are checking if the last word is ending with a question. We also want to check if the user did not enter exit. In this case, output will get a randomly generated question where we replace the word blank 1 with the trimmed version of the first word, and we also want to replace the word blank 2 with the trimmed version of the last word, and finally we will print that out on the screen. We do the same thing with we check if the last word ends with an exclamation mark, and we also want to check if the user did not input exit. Everything else is almost the same, with the only difference that we are, in case the user entered a exclamation mark at the end, we want to concatenate at the beginning while dramatic. All right. Finally, we want to check if the user entered exit, which is a decision to get out of the code. So what we want to do, if the user did enter exit, we want to ask the user, do they want to use do they want to do another session? Anyway, the decision of the user will be stored in the string variable called input. Then what we want to do is we want to check if that input is either yes, or a lowercase yes, or a capital yes, or any other version of yes in between. And if that's the case, the again variable will be storing true, and we want to break out of this loop. Next, what we want to do is check if the user entered any version of no, and if the user did that, the again variable will be storing false, and we will print out on the screen goodbye until next time. And we also want to break out of this loop. This is a do while loop that will iterate as long as the user does not enter yes or no, or any acceptable version of yes or no. The user will need to input as long as we don't encounter a valid input. Afterwards, what we want to do is break out of this first while loop. All right. Hello, my name is Eliza. What's your name? First, what I want to do is use the inputs that are in the description of the problem in Zybooks. My name will be Wonder Woman. Hello, Wonder Woman. Tell me what is on your mind in one sentence, and I'll say, today is Friday. Let us explore the relation between Friday and today. Then what we say is, Friday is a fantastic day. Let us explore the relation between day and Friday. Interesting. Why do you want me to talk about Friday? Does why bother you? How about Friday? So next thing, we say no with an exclamation mark. Wow, dramatic. Tell me more about no and no. I want to talk about the project. Tell me more about I and project. Then the user enters exit. Do you want to run the session again? The user says, according to Zybooks, the user says no. Goodbye until next time. As you can see, the code is done executing. All right, and as instructed, I need 2 more runs. My name is Luke Chatanasov. Hello, Luke Chatanasov. Tell me what is on your mind in one sentence. I finished the project. Project complemented with the attributes of I can be a powerful tool in your self-help toolkit. That sounds good. That and good seem to be on your mind. Let's talk more about it. No way, man. Wow, dramatic. Man complemented with the attributes of no can be a powerful tool in your self-help toolkit. You really think so? Do you think that so is because of you, or is it the other way around? Nonsense. Alright, we finally want to exit. Do you want to run the session again? Let's say yes. No, let's put something that is not valuable. No way. Then it's gonna print it again. We're gonna say okay. That's not valid. So the only thing it's gonna accept is yes. Any version of yes. Hello, my name is Eliza. What's your name? My name is LJ. Nothing really. Okay, let's exit. Do you want to run the session again? Let's say no. And goodbye until next time. We're gonna do one last fast run. Alexander the Great, what about that? I died a long time ago. I and ago seem to be on your mind. Let's talk about it. I do not talk about these things. Wow, dramatic. I and things seem to be on your mind. Let's talk about it. Okay, you want me to talk about it? It is it is affecting Is it affecting you in any significant way? No. Okay. All right. Let's finally exit. Okay, that's not gonna work. Nope. That's also not gonna work. Let's try. No. That works. That would be it.